Join me in welcoming Harout Markarian. Hey, Harout, how are you doing today?
Hi, Steve. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. So, your book is called Mobility and Inclusion. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do in the world.
A little bit about me. I have been an aerospace engineer for the good part of the past 15 years, and I found my calling really advocating and designing for an accessible world for all when my grandparents became completely dependent on caregivers. And I saw how um, they suffered physically, emotionally, and mentally. And it really inspired me to found Markbotics, which is a company where I'm the CEO, and the mission is to provide mobility challenged individuals an efficient and affordable robotic platforms to to easily perform activities of daily living. And that's how, when I first started the company, it was around the pandemic time. So when that happened, I was doing a lot of research, which led to the creation of the book. And that's how really mobility and inclusion came about. And also with the creation of the book, I started a podcast called Mobility and Inclusion as well.
Mobility is, especially when you talk about including people in it. I was thinking the other day, and you can verify this for me, but how many even just office buildings are set up to really be inclusive for people with different disabilities?
See, that's a good question, really. They have been many attempts to make our built environment more accessible, and we've come a long way since, I don't know, since a long time ago. But now we find that mindset more present, but it's still not a lot of offices are accessible to people with disabilities. And we're not only talking about mobility challenged individuals, we're talking about disabilities in general. And to make things accessible, to make our buildings, environment, our services, our products more accessible, really takes a holistic look. So we can't just say, for example, our office is not accessible. Sometimes the office is accessible, but the tools you use in the office are not accessible. So it should be the whole package type of thing. And we are better than what we were before, but we're not where we need to be yet.
Yeah, I was just thinking even simply about all the doors in an office building. So you have these nice ADA compliant restrooms and elevators and things like that, but then they can't get into any of the rooms, especially like conference rooms.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, it's really simple to create wider doors, and you just take the rims out of the doorway. Just by taking the rims out, that gives you a wider um, doorway, I guess, a wider doorway that, mostly any mobility device or any device that is used by a person with disability can fit through there. And we don't have to change our entire situation. We have to make small adjustments, and it'll make a huge difference on the people really looking for that.
And you don't deal just with people in wheelchairs, you deal with people with all kinds of, especially the robotics end of things, right?
Absolutely. So the wheelchairs is unfortunately the one area that is talked the most, because people see wheelchairs more often than anything else, really. And when you think disability, you think wheelchair directly. Like, a lot of people are like that, and I was one of those too. Until I got into this field. uh, it's just recently, that in the past maybe 3 years, that I started knowing the different kinds of disabilities that exist.
So, specifically speaking, your company, because there isn't a lot of robotics involved also in wheelchairs,
Mhm.
what kind of devices are you helping to build?
So right now, that's one thing I want to clarify. Really, I'm not someone who's coming into this community and telling them what to fix. My goal is to partner with the community and provide solutions together, come up with solutions, right? And that's a big part of what I do, and I think it is because of that that I'm more appreciated from many people that I've worked with. Now, in terms of the product that I'm creating these products with the help of people with disabilities, because at the end of the day, I don't want to put a product out and people tell me, "Oh, why did you do this? Like, we rarely even are going to use it." So I don't want that to happen. So right now I have, as I said, I'm a startup. So I'm looking for investors, and I have my first product, and I have a prototype for that first product. And it helps people with low motor skills, people on wheelchairs, people who cannot bend over really, to pick things up from the ground. Because every time you're someone with a hip problem, with a knee problem, basically with the low motor skills, right? They're trying to bend over to pick something up. They're risking a fall. And when they risk a fall, they could lead to other complications. And we're trying to solve that problem. We're trying to keep that from happening, but with this product.
Actually, I was at the bank last month, and I think her mobility issue just had to do with being older.
Yeah.
But I actually saw a lady that went over, smacked her head on the cement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's the number one cause of a lot of complications during the for elderly. It's falling. And why do people fall other than not being attentive when they're walking around? It's a lot of time they're trying to pick something up from the ground, whether they're doing laundry or they dropped I don't know, a piece of fruit, a utensil. And this is, I'm talking about, household situations, things that can be avoided really, and that's what we're addressing.
That is such an important product too, because anybody that's dealt with any type of limited mobility, especially when it comes to the ground, can tell you just how scary it is, especially when you get to the point where you're just like, no, it's just going to have to stay there. Hopefully somebody will come by someday and pick it up, because if they don't,
exactly,
it's a permanent part of the floor.
Yeah, and that's what you don't want, and a lot of people, for example, the way I came out with this product is through my podcast. I was hosting a guest who had a spinal cord injury, and after the show, he came to me a couple of weeks later, said, "Oh, if I had this product, it will make my life a lot easier. Now I don't have to wait for my caregiver when I drop something to come and pick it up, or if I fall on the ground, I don't have to wait for someone to pick me up and put it back on my chair." So, and it's a real concern. You said become a permanent part of the floor, and that's in some cases that's reality till someone gets to you. And especially if you don't have the upper body strength, you don't have good motor skills in your hands to pull yourself up, that can happen.
Yeah, anybody that's never been through the incident, and for me it was, I overdid it, and so I had fatigued my muscles to the point where, so I was able to rebound eventually. But you have that moment where you're laying there on the ground and you're just like, okay, this is where I am for the little bit of my life that's left.
Yeah, actually, my neighbor a month ago or a couple of months ago, she had a hip replacement surgery, and this is someone who doesn't use, or maybe she uses a walker or something, but in the house she rarely uses the walker, and she bent over to pick up her newspapers in the morning. And she fell, hit her head. Right now, her head was bleeding. She started calling for help, and we're door to door. So this was at 6:30 in the morning, and it was easy. My wife, I was at work at the time, but my wife heard her, and we have a baby in the house, so she went to help. But because she's heavy, she wasn't able to pick her up. So we had to call 911. Then the 911 people came. The firemen came, and they, with 4 really built men, they were barely able to pick her up, because at this point you don't even want to overdo it, because she might have dislocated something while she fell, right? So you have to be careful. That's why you have to, even the caregiver has to make good decisions at times.
Absolutely. So you are looking for investors. Um, is it just the traditional route with angel investors? Do you have a Kickstarter campaign? What kind of investors are you looking for?
So spoiler alert, this is my first take or first crack at entrepreneurship, right? I've been employed for the majority of my career, and now I find myself in this situation where I really want to devote myself to this company and to this community. So I've done a lot of research, and I do have a pitch deck. But when you ask me what kind of investors I'm looking for, I guess the answer to that is I'm looking for the right kind of investor, meaning the investor that has similar heart to mine and is willing to help people. Of course, all the other business acumen has to be there as well, from both ends, either my end or his or her end. But I can't tell you whether it's angel investor or a venture capitalist or whatever other type of investors there are out there. I don't have a Kickstarter yet. That's something I'm trying to start, or not. I'm trying to start. I will start soon. And the reason I haven't started yet, because I'm also expecting a baby, so I'm helping my wife out with a lot of her stuff. Make sure that she's okay. But after that, I believe that however or wherever the investor comes from, I believe I'm going to be in front of the investor, the right investor, and make a big impact.
I absolutely do too. So, for people who might be interested in investing or just even supporting you at all, how can they get in contact with you, know more about what you're doing, listen to your podcast, all that stuff?
So the podcast is called Mobility and Inclusion. I have a YouTube channel. They can go watch it there, and it's listed on Anchor, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, and a bunch of other hosting platforms. They can email me at Harout, HAROUTM, at markbotix.com. Markbotix is the name of the company. And Markbotix is spelled MARKBOTIX. And that's my email address, or they can reach out, on my phone number, 818-564-5244. And as I said, I have a pitch deck. I can show them the pitch deck, of course, introduce myself, introduce my mission, my vision with this company, with this product, and hopefully, they will see a benefit.
That's awesome. I really appreciate it. Well, the book is called Mobility and Inclusion. And while we're talking about that real quick, I am going to put the link into the chat for people that didn't see it in the description. You can get the book today for free on Amazon, the ebook, and I really do hope people will support it. Harout, give us one last, just kind of negative truth before we close out today.
A negative truth.
Nugget of truth.
Oh. I was like, what's a negative truth? Okay. Nuggets of truth. Well, it's, another podcast guest of mine told me one thing. When we talked about inclusion is really used a lot these days. And as far as I'm concerned, all in the wrong context. When I talk about inclusion, I talk about, we are all souls at the end of the day, right? So we are equal, and we have duties toward one another to support each other, to make sure that everyone is living life to its full potential, to their full potential. And that's what inclusion is all about, really. You don't look at the person, you look at or you don't look at the capabilities or the limiting beliefs that you have when you see someone, right? You look at the person inside, and you don't predetermine what this person can or cannot do. You just let them show you what are they capable of, and then you include them in society. And just another nugget of truth here is that 85% of people with disabilities acquire their disability later in life. So all of us have a big chance of, at one point, of becoming temporarily or permanently disabled. So that's why we have to make the necessary adjustments now and not wait till we're early 70s, right? Like getting into that age where we're becoming more vulnerable, our bodies are becoming more vulnerable, or wait for us to have an accident or battle a specific type of sickness to start making a change and to start making things more accessible, because the statistics are there, and only 15% of the population are born with a disability. The rest acquired at one point in their lives. So it's very important to be accessible, to learn about accessibility, to learn about to being inclusive, and just support one another.
Well, Harout, I really appreciate you spending some time here on the show with us today.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for your time.